former Lieutenant Governor of New York and New York Post columnist and Newsmax contributor Betsy McCoy, and Project 21 board member Christopher Arbs. Thank you, guys. Happy Friday to you. I want to get your reaction to this breaking news. Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema on leaving the Democratic Party and becoming an independent. Betsy, look, we saw Tulsi Gabbard leave the Democratic Party. Now, Kyrsten Sinema, what do you make of this?
Well, this is going to have a much bigger impact on a major focus for the Biden administration, which is confirming judicial nominees. He's right up there with Trump in terms of maximizing the number of nominees. And there's been a lot of focus on the fact that he's nominating almost entirely women and minorities. But what people aren't talking about is the fact that he is nominating public defenders instead of prosecutors and corporate attorneys. In other words, he's nominating soft on crime people to fill those judicial seats. And Kyrsten Sinema is going to play a major role in providing or not providing the votes for that.
Yeah, that is actually going to be shocking. But, Chris, when you see the balance of power we just saw, it's 50-50 through January, okay, for now. But it's actually 48 Democrats, 50 Republicans, because you have 2 independents, obviously, there in there now. So going into the new time, when they're forced to do these big omnibus bills, do you think Kyrsten Sinema is going to have more resistance than she previously did when she was a Democrat?
I think she will because, you know, the Senate, as you said, is 48-48. I think that she's going to be, of course, voting. Most of her votes are going to be with the Democrats. But I think there's going to be key votes because she's in a swing state and she's in Arizona and she's up for re-election in 2024, where she's going to side with the Republicans and she's going to give some heartache to Chuck Schumer and the rest of the Democrats. You know, we've been hearing after the election how the Republican Party's in disarray with the leadership election in the House of Representatives. Now we're seeing the Democrats having a little heartburn, especially Chuck Schumer, with Kyrsten Sinema deciding to become the new John McCain Maverick.
Yeah, it could be.
Who knows? All right, we'll be following this story throughout the day here on Newsmax, but I do want to move on to another big story, is the release of WNBA star Brittany Griner. So yesterday, President Biden spoke about her release and the latest on the possible release of Marine Paul Whelan, who seemed to have been forgotten. Take a listen.
This was not a choice of which American to bring home. We brought home Trevor Reed when we had a chance early this year. Sadly, for totally illegitimate reasons, Russia is treating Paul's case differently than Brittany's. And while we have not yet succeeded in securing Paul's release, we are not giving up. And we'll keep negotiating in good faith for Paul's release. I guarantee that. I say that to the family. I guarantee you.
All right, Betsy, I know we're all glad that we now have an American, who was in a Russian jail back on U.S. soil for her family. But we have a Marine, an ex-Marine, who has been in a Russian prison for 4 years. And I just wonder, how weak does this make us look? And now that we traded Brittany Griner for merchant of death, somebody who wants and tried to kill American citizens, do we even have anybody left to negotiate with to get Paul back out of Russia?
The fact is, it exudes weakness. Listen to what Biden was saying. He was saying, Russia called the shots. Again and again, he is capitulating to a major foe of the United States. In this case, it really puts the lives of many, many Americans who would contemplate traveling to one of these countries at risk, because of course now the thugs in Russia, Iran, China see how easy it is to get back a major war criminal by trading for someone, in this case Brittany Griner, lovely person who unfortunately had a little pot oil in a vape. She is not a war criminal. This was an asymmetrical trade.
Right.
The Americans got snookered.
Yeah, Chris, we talked about it in the last hour, but as I think more and more about this is a president who has repeatedly touted gun control for American citizens protected under the Second Amendment. He has talked about the safety and security of the United States. He releases the merchant of death who has trafficked millions of firearms globally, funneled them into untold conflicts that have ended up in Afghanistan and Iraq that have been used against American citizens. I don't want to hear another word about gun control from this guy. Does this take the wind out of his sails?
Well, you would think it would, and you know, the blogger Cat Turd, he tweeted something out saying that exact same thing. You know, this is no doubt a great propaganda win for Putin and for Russia. You know, to divide Americans with this release, who were already divided, is a great propaganda win for him. And it also comes on the heels that in the Congress right now, there is growing debate about cutting off military funding for the war in Ukraine. So Putin got a bonus. He got a war criminal back from the United States, and he is dividing America along racial lines and for funding the war.
Yeah, and as General Holt said, this guy is not retired, and he's a major danger to U.S. and other countries. CNN, though, Betsy, took a different approach on Griner's return and how the LGBTQ plus community is being treated here in the U.S. Take a listen.
I think I would be remiss if we did not mention also the importance this plays for the LGBTQ community. Yes, as we've been talking about black women, this is big. So this is for the LGBTQ community. GLAAD releasing a statement, obviously, just I'm summarizing here that they're happy, and that shows the struggles and the danger that members of the LGBT community face around the world. But when you look at what is happening with the LGBT community specifically here in the United States,
Betsy, what do you make of what Don Lemon said right there?
This is abhorrent. The fact is, she should be discussed as an American, and that's it, period. Any American who's held captive, whether the person is LGBTQ, male, female, whatever their gender preferences and their sexual identity is, it should not matter at all, and the same with their skin color. It's abhorrent that anybody in the news is discussing this incident that way.
Yeah, what does this, Carl, I was listening to that, and Chris, what does that have to do with anything, with the story of why she was arrested, why she got out? I mean, how does that play into this?
Look, every human being deserves dignity and respect, and should be able to pursue pursue what they want to do in life. But to compare what's happening to the LGBT community in the United States, that the LGBT community in Saudi Arabia and Iran, if you are homosexual, you're thrown off a building, I don't think there's much comparison there.
I will say something.
Thank you, Christopher.
Yeah, I mean, look, it doesn't matter. Like, at no point was skin color or sexual orientation at all a factor of this. But for me, I would have brought home the military veteran, the Marine, over the basketball player. That's just me. Betsy?
I have to agree with you, because he's a real hero to America. He served our country. Brittany Griner, I'm very glad she's home. But Paul Whelan has been there longer. He was a much bigger get, and the Russians knew that, and that's why they did not return him. Yeah. So, as I said before, the Biden administration and America got snookered.
Go ahead, Chris.
And I think Paul doesn't probably have a problem with standing up for the national anthem.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
I will anxiously await the next game she plays. Betsy McCoy, Christopher.
Go Army!
Yeah, exactly.
My father-in-law's a West Point graduate, so I gotta go Army.
Navy all the way, guys.
It's gonna be